if your vocal is almost there in the mix, but whatever you do, it just doesn't cut through like you want it to, this video is for you. In this video, I want to share a very powerful mixing technique with you. It's perfect on vocals, and I would describe it as giving the vocals a 3D-ness or help it pop and cut through the mix. And that technique is saturation. We're going to talk about what it does specifically to vocals, and we're going to talk about when in the vocal mixing process is the right time to add this technique. Let's break it down. So first of all, what is saturation and what does it do to vocals? Saturation is a group of plugins that adds harmonics to a signal. All that might sound very fancy, but what is most important is how do we perceive it musically? And I would describe that as adding richness and fullness to the sound. Here's an example that might help it click in your head. So here we have a sine tone. Sounds like this. Sounds like someone's swearing. Right now it's one narrow frequency that's playing, but notice what happens when we add saturation to it. So just by turning the plugin on, you can see that we've generated some extra layers of overtones or harmonics. And as we push the saturation harder, those become more obvious. Doesn't sound very pleasant, but it should give you a visual idea of what I'm trying to explain. But more importantly, we're here to answer the question, how does this help my vocal mixing? So in a similar way to what we saw just now, adding saturation on vocals also creates this layer of richness. Trust me, it will sound a lot better than the sine tone. So here we have a vocal. I'm going to solo it so we can hear the saturation more specifically.
So show me in this chaos how to slow the minutes down.
So as you heard, if you push too far, you get that audible distortion, but somewhere in between, you get this kind of subtle saturation that thickens up the vocal, makes it richer. I like to describe it as going from 2D to 3D. It kind of like pops out of the speakers. So hopefully you're starting to get an idea how this can help your vocal mixing. Now, of course, when you're mixing, it doesn't matter how it sounds in solo. It only matters how things sound in context with the music. So here's where we can answer our second question. When is it the right time to add saturation? Should you add it at the beginning stage so that you have that color while you're making decisions? Or should you add it towards the end? And their answer is somewhere in the middle. If you want to know the steps that come before and after it in more detail, we have a free 4-step vocal mixing guide that you can get in the description below. It will lay out the entire vocal mixing process like a roadmap that you can follow. But to keep things simple and focus on saturation, all you have to know right now is saturation comes best after you've cleaned up your vocal. Get the guide, it'll explain everything step by step in much more detail. But here we're going to focus on saturation. Here we have a mixed vocal, but it's still not 100% there. To me, the vocal feels like it's kind of sitting alongside the music and the track, but I want it to kind of pop and sit above the music ever so slightly so that it becomes the focus of the song. This is the perfect time to add saturation because frequency-wise, it's there. Dynamically, I feel like it's also there.
Show me in this chaos how to slow the minutes down. So show me in this chaos how to slow the minutes down.
So I hope I've helped you unlock a new tool in your vocal mixing. Make sure you get the foundations right first and then think about saturation as the final push to get the vocal thicker, richer, and from 2D to 3D where it pops above the music. Remember to grab the free 4-step vocal mixing guide. It will show you exactly the steps that come before and after saturation in much more detail. It's a complete roadmap that I use every time I mix vocals, so that will be in the description box below. Like this video if you found this helpful, share it with a friend who needs to add this tool to their vocal mixing process, and subscribe for more mixing content, and I'll see you in the next one.